Hello and welcome to Project LLM's Brief Encounters podcast. Our guest today is Puja Pallavi, an accomplished law graduate from Amity Law School, where she graduated with a silver medal in dual degree of business and law. She went on to pursue her LLM in commercial law at the University of Cambridge, securing prestigious scholarships such as the Goodison Memorial Fund and the 𝗵𝘃𝗃 Law Fund. Puja has further honed her expertise by attending a summer course in private international law at the Hague Academy of International Law on a full scholarship. Currently an associate at Clyde Co in London, she is on a path to dual qualification in India and has already gained her qualification in England and Wales. Her legal career spans both contentious and non-contentious areas, including international arbitration, mediations, and drafting complex construction and commercial contracts. Her academic contributions include thought-provoking publications on topics such as gender disparity, artificial intelligence, and restorative justice. She has been recognized with multiple merit scholarships and awards, including the Balajit Shastri Award for her academic excellence with leadership. With a blend of academic rigor, practical expertise, and a passion for justice, she stands out as a remarkable legal professional, and we are thrilled to delve into her inspiring journey today. Hello and welcome to Brief Encounters. It is such an honor having you on here.
It's lovely being here as well.
Thank you for that. So now this is a question that we ask all our guests. How did law happen? What inspired you to pursue law, and how did your journey begin into legal studies?
I mean, it's a mix of both coincidence. Well, I would like to think it was all planned, but who am I kidding? Just as a bit of background, I come from a very small town in Bihar. If some might be aware that it's comparatively still regressive compared to the other parts of India. So my journey living there has, of course, amazing parts, but there are certain elements which also encouraged me towards feeling that, empowerment, which eventually led me to do law. But all of it was truly very coincidental because I always knew I would want to do something alongside that, which would just make me feel a bit more empowered and independent. However, I had just right before doing any sort of admissions, I was a very carefree, chill person. I was known to be very naughty, very in my own head, going around doing God knows what. And I had gone home for Holi, and enrollments happen around June, July-ish something. So I had gone home for Holi, and then we were having a Holi party, and one of them just said, and in India, there is a misconception about all lawyers have to go in front of the court and speak and all of those. Yeah. So they're like, oh, you talk quite a lot and valid points. I don't know whether he meant as an insult or what. I do not know. But his point was, oh, you talk a lot. You should do law.
Oh my God.
Right. And even since when I was a kid, apparently, in India, you have those tippany and all. And my mom was like, in your tippany, it is written that you'd one day become judge. There is no way because I have zero. But I guess it was a lot of, I don't have any solid point or about it to go this thing happened. And then no, it was a mixture of just coincidence. It was right before admissions. I was already confused about what I want to do. And he said it. And then I researched a bit about how long will it take, what all it entails. And then I just decided to do a bit of business and law because that's just something that attracted me at that point in time. So yeah, long story short, coincidence plus some background of it and constant hearing of this. He was not the first. I've been hearing this forever that, oh, you talk a lot. Oh, you talk on points. Oh, you have a rebuttal for everything.
Yeah.
Why don't you go you do law? So I guess, yeah.
It's the typical, you know how to argue, you should become a lawyer. There's absolutely nothing else, in your life other than.
Please. You have to rebut every single point that we put. What are you, a lawyer? Now I can say.
Oh my God, that's amazing. But I really liked how organic your journey was. Growing in love with law is better than, just suddenly one day realizing that it's something that you like. I think that's brilliant. So you did your undergrad from Amity. Looking back at your time, what key experiences or defining factors made it the right choice for your legal education?
I mean, my main point at that point in time, the reason why I had picked Amity were completely different than what by the end of it I would now pick it for. So rather than going on to the points why I picked Amity at that point, one of the major one being I was in Amity International School, so it was comparatively like just easier for me to switch to Amity University. Main bit now that I would, if anybody is thinking about Amity, I can just simply tell them that they have a lot of resources, which of course they have a very fancy bougie infrastructure. That's the first thing that anybody notices if they go to Amity, like, oh wow, the infra is amazing. Definitely a key point. It does help, especially in Delhi's summer with all the aircon in every corridors, it helps. But I would really stress upon the resources that they have. Many people who are not interested don't even dig into it. But if you are interested, the resources, the clubs and committees, the amount of exposure that you can get there. If you are aware about your own needs, then only you can ask for it from a second person. So if you know about what you want, whether you want to go to moot courts, whether you want to attend a youth festival or a YP or an MUN or clubs and committees related to legal aid or dancing, singing, drama, anything, right? What does usually count as co-curricular or extracurricular during our university years? Once you graduate, those are the main bits which remains with you, whether in terms of fun experience or the experience that you take away from it based on what you learn from meeting all those different people, just as an example. So I would say that would be one of my key elements for that. If you ask, there would be a committee, there would be a fund allocated to those things. They can send you out, you can engage into all of these things, which compared to a lot of universities that I have friends at and I talk to them, they do not. So yeah, definitely. Any Amitians, or anybody who's, go ask.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. So your time at Amity seemed very productive, considering that you got the Bhastri Award and a silver medal for an outstanding accomplishment, I would say. What key strategies enabled you to maintain such a great academic excellence in university?
I only did two things religiously. One was I never skipped lectures, as uncool as it sounds to a lot of people. Call me uncool if you have to. But I made sure I attended all the lectures and I just learned the concepts that were taught in them. I was never known to be like a detailed note taker, etc. So I just attended lecture with the viewpoint that, okay, let's hear them, what they're saying. Let's actually grasp the concept. And then I would just go home, chill, relax, play my games or watch movies, chill with my friends. But right before exams, I would then, right before maybe 2-3 days or whatever works for anybody, be it was a night before, 2-3 days, whatever it is. And I would just refresh my memory on it. I always, unless it's subjects like, because there are certain mandatory subjects like French or not French, any language,
right,
or English, well, again, another language, there you can be, oh, I have to like memorize certain terms here, there. Right. But otherwise, I always was a key believer in just understand the concept, write it in your own language, and more likely than not, you are going to get like marked well on it. And that's exactly what I did. So just go attend lectures. You'd learn a lot.
That is some great advice. That's something that people should definitely imbibe. So let's move on to your LLM application. You have done it from Cambridge. Wow. So what led you to pursue an LLM immediately after graduation, and how did you prepare yourself for this pivotal step?
Back then it was more of a career planning,
Right.
to be very honest, because if anybody knows or would like to know, a bit background is that if you want to study LLM in, let's say right now is 2025. So if you want to study LLM in 2026, most likely majority of the international universities take application in September to December of 2025. Right. So that penultimate year being the fourth year of your law school. So back then I was thinking, okay, we are at like almost to our final year. What am I going to do with my career? And a couple of things on my mind was, of course, either you're going to get a job or you're going to get into another study, whether PhD and LLM. And of course, back then I was also slightly into the mindset that eventually I might want to go into academics and become a professor, which has now fallen through, might I add. But back then I was very, very passionate about it, that someday I'm going to in front of my name and I'm going to do PhD after doing an LLM. I was like, no more studies ever in my life. Back then I was passionate about it. So as a backup, what I did was, in your final year, you have to do 3 to 4 months of internship. So I was doing both applications simultaneously. So one was my application for internships, which would end up resulting hopefully in PPO, pre-placement offer, as well as do an application for LLM, that if for some reason I can't go through with that or I don't get an opportunity for it, then I would have a backup and I won't be wasting my year. And of course, an international LLM would play a key role into my like overall profile, like CV. So it's not a bad thing to do. So I was doing them both simultaneously. So once again, it's like a theme throughout my life. Like there is no, wow, that's how I got into it. No, it was more like, okay, it slowly built up. There was a logic behind it. I was making sure that I have either or option or both the option, which I ended up having at the end, because I remember I ended up getting an internship from AZB, Anand and Anand, and Trilegal. I did do it all three, but it was COVID year. So my AZB was in person, but later on, because of COVID, Trilegal and Anand ended up emailing us that we are going to switch it to online.
Right.
But by then, because I already had an offer, I was more relaxed about, oh, what if I don't get a PPO? Because then, so it was a strategy, to be very honest.
It's not every day that people are just like, oh, you know what, I have an offer from Cambridge, but I also have a PPO. You worked so hard for it. You totally do deserve.
No, actually, like there was this moment I remember, because I received this AZB internship was in March, and I started it without a Cambridge offer. I had a few acceptance from US universities, but I didn't have Cambridge then. And I started on 1st of March, and I saw people around me working so hard to get a PPO. They were working like, I don't know, one person I remember was doing 2 a.m. some days, not every day, but they were doing it. And it wasn't asked of them. They were like volunteering so that, you know, you have a better reputation, and that's at least how it is perceived at that. So they were doing it. And I was like, oh, should I be doing all of that? And then I was like, okay, but maybe I would like Trilegal more, and COVID hadn't happened. And then suddenly I have my Cambridge acceptance on 10th of March, and I'm like, I'm gonna leave at 5 o'clock. I am not bothering with anything. I don't need a PPO. I'm just gonna come do my internship, go home. Okay, bye. So it was suddenly it became like a very stress-free internship. I still had a lot of good experience, but I didn't feel that unnecessary pressure on me, which I felt some people did, reasonably so. But it was just a good experience overall because of that.
It was more like, you need me now, I don't need you. That's amazing.
It was a nice spot. Like, I like that rather than the other way around.
Obviously, who wouldn't? So, like you had mentioned, how did you narrow down your choices for programs? Cambridge definitely seems like an automatic choice, or did you still have to weigh other options?
No, no and yes, because thing was, I mostly applied to US universities. My aim was US universities. The only issue was I read online, which I now know to be false, but back then I read online, well, not false, but limited. But back then, I saw that all the Ivy universities would not accept you unless you have at least 2 years of work experience. It is still true. I have also found out that they always make certain exceptions. Some years they don't, but some years they do accept 1 or 2 students, even though they don't have any work experience whatsoever. Right. So I thought that, and the US applications are expensive. Like, it's not like, oh, they are not going to accept me, but I'm still going to, just on an off chance, I'm going to apply because they might. They are expensive application. Each application would set you back around 12,000-13,000 rupees, as well as, of course, you have to sign up to a portal, which is LSAT, which is another 40,000 rupees.
Yeah.
So it is expensive. You can't just bulk send out your applications. So I had picked nice universities, but not Ivies. I always wanted to, NYU was my dream university.
Oh, wow.
My brother lived in New York, and I always saw so much movies and I was exposed to all of those things. I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to study in NYU. They're going to be like, and I remember going to those counselors and they said, oh, based on your CV, you are not going to get any of the top universities. So chill down, calm down. We are just going to give you like these. And I have never even heard of these universities.
Oh.
And I took my file. I came back home and I'm like, thank you, I'll do it myself. So I ended up like doing my applications. So I was applying, and NYU took NYU as my base and went on. So I applied to NYU, Berkeley, Georgetown, UCLA, UB, 2-3 more. I can't remember anymore. But luckily, somehow I got accepted in, I think, all of them. And applied with scholarship. So that's how we came to Cambridge. And that's why this is important to tell, is because I got accepted to all of them. However, the scholarships were limited. So some were 70%, some were 50%, some were 75%. And even with all of them, US is so expensive that even with like just paying 15% of the money for everything, it's not 15, 25, because one was 75% that I was leaning towards.
Right.
And even then it was incredibly expensive to live in the US. So then I was like, okay, what should I do? Should I be doing some backup applications? And so my brother suggested, why don't you apply for Cambridge and Oxford and LSE? And I thought,
backup options?
As in, because US is expensive, comparatively cheaper. And back then I also had this false narrative in my head that it's easier to convert from an Indian background lawyer to a UK because we both have common. That is a misconception. I'll come to that later if we have similar stuff. But yeah, and people should read into it. But yeah, I thought, okay, I will apply. And I remember it was the last day of application for Cambridge when we had more or less decided on all of these points. And I remember trying to like recycle my NYU application into like Cambridge application. But it's not recycling because it's personal statement. So that's not going to change. It's like you have to insert other particulars into it. Anyways, applied. Oxford doesn't offer any LLM. It has like other courses. It doesn't do commercial law much. It has more of a civil law barrister style courses. So once I got accepted there, it was comparatively an easier choice because the fees were quite low comparatively to the US, especially with scholarship and stuff. It was almost negligible because I barely ended up paying much at all. So yeah, it was just, again, strategy about where it would cost less. I didn't want myself onto that spot where once I've finished LLM, I have to pay off loans. I have to get a job right away. I was aware of the job market back then and how bad it was. So I didn't want to put myself in a position where I have to take a loan or any sort of like thing where I am putting myself on a like timer that I must get a job right away to pay off all of those things. That's how, and of course, Cambridge is Cambridge. So it's not like you're settling for
obviously.
It's like the best anyways. So I was quite happy about it. The moment I got it, I'm like, yeah, okay, fine.
Those counselors must be thinking twice that they did you dirty with whatever they said. That was so wrong.
It's all about the commissions they get and how like it comes across. I don't know. I don't know what's up with all of that. But yeah, I would say anybody who is interested in doing LLM and is thinking about like whether they should do their own application or not, I say please go for it. That it isn't that complicated. You have to write your own personal statement, whether you take a counselor or not. It is your story. You have to tell it. And you just need a bit of research. So do a bit of research and you're good to go.
That is true. So you were awarded a full scholarship to attend the Hague Academy of International Law. How was that experience? How did you manage to get the scholarship? How does the application process for a summer school differ from that of an university?
I wouldn't say it differs much. I mean, I will try to keep my answers brief because I know I've been going on. I don't think it differs much. They both were more or less the same. I think it's just that the summer internship was slightly less exhaustive. So it was in comparison, it took me less time. They only asked for a recommendation letter and personal statement, and then you just had to fill out a bit of information about your bank details in case you get a scholarship. Oh, I should mention that you only need to put a statement of purpose or SOP if you're applying for scholarship. If you're not, then you don't even need that. You just need references, or it's the other way around. I don't remember anymore. But I think, yeah, one of those between references or SOP, you only need to provide if you're applying for a scholarship. Otherwise, it's, I would say, straightforward. If you have had any experience in any applications before, then you would be done with their application pretty quickly.
Okay, that's great. So how was your experience at Hague? Did you have it was it an in-person summer school?
Oh yeah, it was completely in person.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing. Definitely one of the best summers of my life. I was there for like a whole month in August. And they pay for, if you have a scholarship, they pay for your flight, they pay for your accommodation. Everything is already paid, right? So it's pretty relaxed. And your accommodation is right next to a beach, like it's 2-3 minutes away. One of their main beaches. And of course, the main part, which I should have mentioned first, you get to study at Peace Palace with the International Court of Justice in your background. Like I have pictures. Yeah, I have pictures of holding like these 400-500 books in my hand with like Peace Palace, the International Court of Justice in my background. And I'm like, oh, wow, like this is an experience. But of course, it's only it's only required or important if you're interested into international law, private or public, depending on your interest. But if you are, then I would definitely suggest go for that. It's a very good opportunity.
That sounds amazing. And I think Hague is a dream location for me. It's a dream location for so many other people. That sounds brilliant. So you awarded multiple scholarships, including the Goodison Memorial Fund, the 𝗵𝘃𝗃 Law Fund, the Jacobson Fund. Can you tell us more about these scholarships, what the eligibility criteria was, and how you approached this process?
I don't remember in detail anymore because it's been 3-4 years, but I remember that at Cambridge, or I think at any university, you have 2 types of scholarship. One is merit-based and one is need-based. So you can apply for them separately depending on your needs or like your requirements in general, whether you want to apply on the back of merit or need or both, right? And then there are certain external scholarships and internal. So I remember that Cambridge has a page which has like 50, 60 or even more scholarships all listed in one. And they also send you emails throughout your course if a new scholarship becomes available, and you are free to apply to them. Or if you are in need of money, you can reach out to your counselor, your guide, and everybody has different people, so they can reach out to them and they can ask if there is any scholarship available. I would like to apply for it. So I would say even if in Cambridge you do not get a scholarship right away from the get-go, you can still apply it once you go and join the program.
Right.
They're still available. So I don't remember what were the particulars for these scholarships, but more or less all of them require you a personal statement, categorize whether you are applying on a merit-based or a need-based, if that scholarship is for both, and then just get a reference. That's a general rule for all these scholarships.
But it's a huge accomplishment, getting all of these. It's so proud of you for that. Congratulations.
I genuinely, like, now when I look back, I genuinely on all of it, like, I don't know how all of that happened. It's just like one after another, it just kept happening. Now I look back and I'm like, if I had to do all of that again, do you reckon I would get the same things again? I'm like, okay, let's go. So I don't know.
But very inspiring, brilliant journey. So how do you assess the value of pursuing an LLM in terms of its financial investment versus potential career benefits for someone, let's say, who does not receive such a scholarship?
I mean, it genuinely, I know it sounds like a generic answer, but it genuinely depends on what a person wants out of things or what their career plan is. If someone is thinking in terms of academics, so if I break it down, and if I'm being real with you, a value of LLM is solely only for a PhD or academic purposes, in my personal view. The second element why LLM can be, if you want to break into another market like US, UK, that can can be a second element, but that is not the main purpose of an LLM. Main purpose is it's a very academic course. And one thing I found out after coming to the UK is here, at least, you don't even need a master's before you can apply to a PhD. From undergrad, you can directly apply for a PhD. So if somebody is doing LLM and they're interested in academics solely because they want to then go for a PhD, both in US, UK, there are options where you can directly jump to a PhD, saving a year and money for you. Now, if you come to the commerciality element of it, or in general, if somebody is doing it to break into another market or just to go back home with a better thing on your CV, even though that is not the main purpose of them, it does play a role. Many law firms in India as well as UK or anywhere in the world, I'm assuming, would look comparatively more favorably on you because of that being on your CV.
Right.
And that's so because it's like an evidence of your experience, or I don't know, brain, I don't know how to call it, but they just check your cerebral capacity in some way. It sounds like very, I don't know.
Medical oriented.
But that's the honest truth. That just makes you look more smarter. So whether somebody should pick it or not is completely based on what are their future plans.
Right.
If they want to go into academics, definitely, I would say it's definitely worth it. If they want to add it to their CV and go back to India or work in the UK, I would say it's still definitely worth it, given on which university you're picking, how much is the actual fee for it, whether that would offset in the future or not, or how many years it would take you to pay off the loans if you are going that route. And also, have you made plans about your future, whether you want to stay in that country? If in that country, how would you break into the market? Because it's not as easy as some might believe. And same for India, even after taking the degree back to India, it's not exactly like a walk on a park, something of that sort that, oh
Right.
yeah, I have, give me a job. Just check, research. My life motto is research everything and your life would have a better solution for everything. So research. Do your research.
That's some great advice. So Cambridge attracts students from diverse backgrounds. How did you leverage this network to enhance your understanding of this legal profession? And also, if you could give a few tips to our listeners about networking in general, how important was it when it came to your life?
So to break it down, I think starting with the part of diversity at Cambridge and how that has helped me with the legal knowledge or the benefits of it in general, I would say they are multifold. One would be the very preliminary bit would be you have people from, I think in my batch, there were people from 68 different countries or 70. So essentially, something that you always learn is throughout our law school is, oh, we have a common law system.
Mhm.
I personally never went into detail about, oh, what other systems are there and how are they different. Now, when you have the diversity, it becomes more palpable when you're talking to them and you understand, oh, how much of a difference it is between like a civil and common law country. What other options are there? How the civil jurisdiction judge rules and common law judge does it. Now, what are the how are powers separated? Everything. So essentially, just the judiciary or legal aspects of each of these countries, and you have to sit with them and talk about it. It literally pops up in your normal friendly conversation while you're having it. So nobody is sitting there in circle and talking like, oh, which one are you? Or no, throughout the whole year, you would just think about random things and you would do like, oh, I worked on the, because you have to understand almost all of, I remember, I think if I'm not wrong, again, I didn't check, but I think I was the youngest in the LLM when I was there at Cambridge, or at least one of the youngest, because I remember people being 50, 70, 30, 40, all age groups, right? Some were partners at their law firm, some were like senior professors at their university, and these are like top universities in other countries. So you are hearing their opinion and you automatically become friends. And then, of course, as I said, one thing that really helped for me was just becoming very comfortable with more senior people, more intimidating people being in the room and still talking and putting your viewpoint there. Because I remember this one incident where we were in the class and the topic that was being discussed. And one of the main authorities on that topic, it was like, oh, in this book, this has been cited at this, and then it was open for students to just put their opinion on it. And I remember the professor smiled, looked up and said, oh, by the way, the person who has written the book is here with us. Do you want to stand up and give your opinion on the book? Yeah, and it happened a lot at Cambridge, mind you. A lot of professors are teaching books which are like written by them, which are actually authority in that section, legal area throughout the world. It happened with me with tax. It happened with me with human rights. The same is with corporate finance. So it does happen quite often, but that was the first time when there was like a student who had written, who is one of the authorities whom we were discussing. And then he had gone up, like he stood up and he explained everything in his thought process. And then I remember thinking, and I had a rebuttal to it, but normally I would like be a bit, but he is authority. I remember just standing up and being like, but yeah, this. And so then later on in that evening, it clicked to me how comfortable I have become with, like, even if I think it just boosts your confidence in general. So even now when I am at work, even if it's my supervisor, it's a partner in charge, it's senior associate, if I have something on my mind, I just automatically have become comparatively more comfortable and confident with the idea of just sharing what's here and like vocalizing it, saying it out loud. Right. So that definitely does help. Sorry, what was the second element of the question?
It was about networking.
Networking, I would say back then I hadn't even heard the term networking. I was just making friends. But since then I have heard and I have utilized and I would definitely encourage people to network. How can you network? Well, primary way would be actually make friends, be true to that. But if you are networking, LinkedIn is like your God. Say hello to LinkedIn, make a profile if you don't have one already. Put your details as much as you can. Don't leave it unless you are like a partner or senior or something. You do not to leave your LinkedIn profile empty. They are allowed to. They can do anything. Okay. Once you go to that senior level, you can literally just make your LinkedIn profile, delete everything else. People would still want to reach out to you. You want the details. And just reach out. People generally are very friendly there as long as you're being civil and you're being nice and you're communicating what exactly do you need. You can't just say, hey, what's up? I want to have a chat with you. No, tell them in your message, like, this is something that you're interested in. I see you have worked on this. Can we please have a call? And most likely than not, they would be up for it. Now, don't go into a call expecting or a message communication expecting an outcome from it. Because the one part about networking is most of the time it would help you in some or the other, but don't expect it. Maybe sometimes it would be a constant gratification. Sometimes it would be 5 years down the line. You suddenly remember, you like, it has happened to me that I've had some calls with people and now I am working either them as opposition or somebody I connected with and I ended up working in their team. Wow. So it's more of just connecting. Don't have an instant output expectation from that call, from that chat, from that connection. So just know people, just learn as much as you can, as long as you're actually interested in it. If it is at a student level, try to talk to them about, what do you think about this is my plan for my career aspect. Can you please mentor me? Is this a nice plan or not? What would you have done differently? Because they do have more experience from you. If you are in a work setting, you can always talk to them. This is the area I'm interested in. What are the things that you have done in this area that has been difficult for you or an achievement for you? They would be more than happy to share their experience if they have the time. So just reach out, be polite, tell what's on your mind properly. Don't just leave it like, oh, hi, I'm interested in this. Can we have a call? No, just say a bit more.
Be human then.
Exactly. So don't treat them as a commodity and they won't treat you as just, I don't want to use such a word, but just treat them properly and they would come back.
But one question that people have also, we've all discussed about it, getting into a connection that might be all right, but how do you maintain one, especially with someone who's at a higher position?
First of all, be sure to keep it professional. Yeah. So don't make it very personal from the get-go. There is another way, like at sometimes it does happen that you meet them and then there is a friendly vibe and mutually it is agreed. I mean, unspokenly, but it is agreed that you're going to be friends with them. But most cases, that won't be the case, right? So you are in a professional relationship with them. Keep them professional. Don't try to switch from something like formal to very informal to WhatsApp.
Right.
How have you, like, just keep it polite. How are you? How have you been? Kind of situation. And go with them with questions as to how to maintain it, depending on, like, if they are somebody who are guiding you or mentoring you in general, like regularly check in with them once a week. If they are somebody that you just like to be connected, then perhaps once a month. You have to invest time every week. You have to invest half hour to 1 hour to just keep up with your networks. There is no point in making networks and then letting them slip away. Make less networks, maintain them, rather than getting a hold of them on your LinkedIn and then not maintaining them at all. So it's about quality rather than quantity, I would say. And yeah, just keep in touch. Just drop them a message saying, oh, I have been working on this and that reminded me of this and I reached out to you. Or even if that's not happening, you can literally just say, oh, hi, I'm just checking in. This is this. Like, do you have any further input? Would you like to meet up for a coffee? And of course, be very mindful of the gender roles in it as well, and like how you're choosing your words for it, especially in India. So
I think that's some really, really great advice. So many international students pursuing an LLM aspire to gain work experience there. What was your experience securing opportunities post LLM, and what advice would you offer? How was the job market post your LLM?
I would not sugarcoat it. It's really bad. It's Hunger Game times 20. So, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you get the like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. I would not call it easy. It takes out a lot of healthy mental state from your body. And one thing is, normally, at least I wasn't used to as many rejections as I was receiving, right? They were flowing in rejections, like on a daily basis. You are like, because I attended a lot of career fairs and talked to a lot of HR and senior partners, senior associates, and all of them were like, in the UK, here for this matter, it is not about quantity or quality. It's about quantity and quality. You have to apply in bulk and you have to apply with quality specific to each firm. You can't copy paste your things. So and no typos. If you have one single typo, they would reject you if it's a good law firm, because lawyers are all about attention to detail. And if they see that you don't have an attention to detail in your own application, they are not going to treat you well. And they have so many applicants, they won't look at your application. It was about quantity, quality, all combined. So you're sending out many applications. I remember talking to partner at like top 5 law firms, like magic law firms here, and him saying, I remember when I was applying back in like 90s, I had applied to 146 application and I only got one back, one single, and here I am at that law firm. So apply in bulk, you would be getting rejected, but you only need one. I never got a second interview. I never got any other law firm. The remaining 145 rejected me. And I just got one call. I followed through to it, made sure I get an interview, made sure I qualified the interview. And here I am at that law firm 16 years later, or 26 years later, 26, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was a senior partner. So that kept me going. And I remember there was a short period of time where I was like getting the rejection mails 5, 6 in a single day. And I was like, what is happening? But there were, of course, a lot. At least for me, it was like I had gotten second round. Here, some law firms even do 6 rounds of job application. So an exam, a video interview, a phone interview, then a proper HR interview, then an assessment day or a partner interview, whatever. And so I was going to, so from it was like a thing. So I started applying, I think, in January or Feb. And first 2 months, I was getting completely rejected. Next month, it started to going to second rounds. Then third month, I was going to like 3-4 firms. I was going to like 3-4 rounds. And then finally, I think by May, I had a job. And of course, many people have tried it for a couple of years. I remember lightly applying for it a year before as well and being completely rejected. So I would say that it's difficult, but it is not impossible. I know many people who do end up getting a job. It's just about resilience. I won't sugarcoat it. Even if you're number one in your thing, in your country or in your university or wherever, you're still going to get the same amount of rejection no matter what. So don't expect that, unless I guess if you were number one at Cambridge, even they must have received. I'm pretty sure they would receive at least, like, perhaps the volume of it would be less, but even they would have received like quite a few rejections. So because they play a lot of different itsy-bitsy into like deciding whom they are going to pick. So yeah, just get used to the rejection. It's natural to get demotivated, but pick yourself up, keep applying, but don't keep applying blindly. Learn from your past mistakes. Make sure you have corrected into your next application, then apply, and then chances are you would get it. But it's difficult.
Yeah, that's a real reality check on that. I think that's important to know. So, well, amazing. You're currently an associate at Clyde Co and on the path to dual qualification in India and England and Wales. What has the process of being in this corporate culture like, and what challenges did you face along the way?
I think the primary challenge was, funny enough, I am now qualified in the UK, but not in India. Because my time to write the Indian exam, I keep missing them because normally they have not been following their schedule. They always delay the exam, or at least the ones that I have checked. Yeah, multiple times. So I remember I applied once. It was supposed to be on 10th. In February or something. I had my tickets booked. No, 10th of December. I had my tickets booked, everything. And then they postponed it for January or February. And I had to cancel all of it. And I couldn't attend. So now I have a fail because you can't cancel it. I emailed them. They said you can't cancel it. So now, even without attempting, I have a fail on my Indian license thingy. Yeah. But yeah, I am now qualified in the UK. And I think it was no walk, like literally walk in the park, because I think my UK qualification took me more effort than my undergrad and LLM combined.
Oh my God.
It was that difficult, especially because so normally what happens is here, now you have to do SQE for 2 years, SQE 1 and SQE 2, there are 2 exams, right? So whether you're coming from India or you're a student here, everybody has to write these 2 exams. The only exception for Indians would be if Indians have 2 to 3 years of work experience in India, then they can skip SQE 2. They only have to give 1 exam, SQE 1. So now normally a law firm pays for it. And if you have gotten accepted to a law firm, they would pay for it. But because they know how arduous these exams are, they would make you sit them before you join them. So that is the reason why, as a general rule, people apply in their second year of law school. Here, there are only 3 years of law school. Right. So they would apply in the ultimate second year. And always the training contracts, which you do after you qualify these exams, you can do it simultaneously, but people usually do it after. They are 2 years in advance. So training contract for right now, it's 2025. So the training contract for 2027 is on right now. Right? Training contracts are essentially a job acceptance thingy. Like if you get a training contract, you have a job. So 2027 starting is being like going now, because it takes you 1 to 2 years to qualify these exams, and their pass rates are crazy. It's like SQE 1 only 50 to 55% pass, and then SQE 2 becomes even more difficult. And I was doing it while doing my training contract. So I guess it is my fault, because I wanted to save 2 years of my life. I decided to not just study. I was like, oh no, they asked me. And I was like, I can work and study at the same time.
Oh my God.
Little did I know back then, no. So it was difficult. It was definitely difficult. It took me a year to get both the exams out of the way. But yeah, now it's done and I'm qualified, finished my training contract last July. I have received. So I'm almost 7-8 months qualified now.
Wow. And how's the corporate culture like in the UK? Is there a work-life balance? Do you?
I would say it depends on the law firm, but compared to India, the work-life balance is definitely way better.
Wow, that's all we want to hear. So yeah, this brings us to our last few questions. For law students and young professionals who are aspiring to build an international legal career, what are the 3 most important lessons that you would like to tell them?
Very important lessons. I would say the first one would definitely be plan ahead.
Right.
Make sure what you want to do. I mean, don't pressure yourself. That would be my actually second advice. Like, don't put yourself into too much pressure, but just think in your second year, perhaps, or third year of law school, what you want to do after law school. Is it a master's, PhD, or a corporate job? So that I think third year is still a very good turning point for you to change everything and achieve what you want to achieve. Plan. But if you choose an LLM, it would be a good idea to plan ahead, because one thing people don't know is if any Indian lawyer doesn't have at least 2 years of work experience from India, then more or less they have to invest 4 to 5 years in the UK to then qualify with 2 years of exams and stuff, then 2 years of training contract. So it's easier to just stay back, do 2-3 years of work experience, come here, give one single exam, no need to do training contract, and then just start as an associate. So just do your research. That's all. So do your research, plan ahead, see if you're always check whether the amount of money that you're going to invest is worth it or not. If you're going to get a job in the UK, how long it would take to offset any loans that you have taken, or if your family requires you to send money, whether you can achieve that or not. So I would say, yeah, just plan ahead and don't overstress. When you're here, actually enjoy your time. Right. Those would be my 2 tips. Like, plan ahead, don't overstress, enjoy your time when you're here, which you would automatically, if you had planned ahead, everything would be on for you. And then third would be network with people. Here, network, make friends, network. These things are important in our field. Other fields, it might not be as important, but here it's definitely important. Maybe not right away it would help you, but some years down the line, these people would play a key role in your life. So just network.
That's some great advice. I hope people remember this anytime they're planning to do an LLM. So our last question, is there any advice you wish you had received when starting out that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would say, I don't know even if I would have received any advice, I would have changed the path that I had taken. But for me, I definitely didn't plan this much ahead. I initially planned on always coming back to India after doing my LLM. So had I planned better, I don't know how it would have been, but I quite like where, I don't mean it in any...
I get what you mean, yeah.
It's a nice place to be in. I am quite content with it. But I would say, yeah, just make sure you do if you plan on staying in the UK or US, one advice would be just know the market, make sure you're doing your applications on time, because there is a 2-3 months time when the application process opens. If you miss it, you have to wait a whole year, more or less. So do your research. Normally that time period is in October, November, December, which is the starting of your LLM. Right. So that is the reason why many people just end up missing it, because they are just starting out, they are doing the clubs, committees, meeting new people, enjoying. So just check beforehand. And the second thing would be India, many people don't know it, but a lot of top law firms here in the UK have specific internships only for Indians. So if you are in penultimate year, like fourth year of your law school out of 5, or second year if you're doing a 3 years degree, you can apply to these internships. If you get accepted, more or less, they take an interview at the end of it and you would get a permanent job. So then you don't even have to do an LLM. You can directly switch, or if you decide to do an LLM, you can do it, and then they would pay for either the LLM or the SQE exams that you have to take. So just plan ahead. That should be the motto: research and plan ahead. Research, plan ahead.
I love that. I love that. Well, yeah, that brings us to the end of this podcast. It was so much fun having you here, hearing your advice. Very real advice that gives us a reality check in situations that we're not aware of. So thank you so much for being here.
It has pleasures. I am not sure if I have taken up too much of
Oh no, it was
time. I
perfectly
think
all right.
needed
We apologize if
but
this has taken up a bit too much. We welcome all the advice that you gave. It was brilliantly amazing. And yeah, thank you so much to the listeners for listening to us. I hope you found this podcast as inspiring as I did. So keep watching and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.